Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making the continuation of my series on analyzing the Passion of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. Sorry that I haven't made any new videos recently. I think it's been a week or so since I've made one, but I've just been really busy. So now things have ended, and I can continue now with my analysis with this video series. Um, I guess where we left off was the trial before Pontius Pilate, and so I'll put in the description section the link back to that video. If you're just tuning in for the first time, I encourage you to go back some steps further and watch some of the other videos in this series. Titles include the Talmud and the trial before the Sanhedrin, then followed by the trial before Pontius Pilate, and now this one is the Crucifixion, as you may have noticed. So we're going to continue now with after the trial of Pontius Pilate and analyzing a lot of the discrepancies and historical issues with that. We then turn now to Jesus being taken out, and we're going to go to the scene of the crucifixion. Now, before they get to the Mount of Skulls, or go, the Mount Calvary, as it's referred to by many Christians, we are told that in Matthew, Mark, and Luke that it was Simon of Cyrene that was carrying the cross of Jesus. But then we are told in the Gospel of John that it was just Jesus. Simon of Cyrene is not mentioned. So therefore we have that blatant contradiction there. I love how, and I mentioned this in my film analysis of the Passion by Mel Gibson, that the way Mel Gibson handles this contradiction is he has both Jesus and Simon of Cyrene carrying the cross, which is interesting, but of course is not accurate as far as the Gospels. You either have to go with the Synoptics, which portray Simon of Cyrene carrying the cross of Jesus, or you have to go with just John, where Jesus is carrying the cross the entire way from point A to point B. But anyway, by the time we get to the place where he's he's crucified, and we have discrepancies, an abundance of discrepancies. What did the people around Jesus say to him? Meaning the crowd, Romans, his followers, etc. What did the two other people crucified next to Jesus say to him? What did he say back to them? What were Jesus' final words? Things like this. Again, it's an amazing thing that one event, the event of the Christian religion next to the resurrection, could have so many errors involved with it. But indeed, this is how it stands in the New Testament. Uh, the thing is that my opinion is that the reason for these contradictions is because there were no eyewitnesses. The disciples were not eyewitnesses to the happenings of the crucifixion. We are told in the Gospels, at least in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that the only people who were friendly to Jesus were the women who are watching from far away. I believe a couple of men are mentioned perhaps, but that is neither here nor there. The point is that they were not at least part of the inner circle of the disciples. They were merely just followers, and as I said, Matthew, Mark, and Luke says they were at a distance. Now, if you look at Strong's Concordance, we're not really told the exact distance that they were standing. I don't believe the Greek word actually connotates this, but the reason why I personally, just based on my own assumptions, can conclude that this was a distance that from a author in the first century who knew about this event, or at least believed that this event happened, or was writing about the event, either way you want to look at it, could see that this was troubling because you have the Gospel of John, and as I like to call it at this point, you have the author of the Gospel of John, or authors, playing cleanup. In other words, there are a couple key things in the narrative that he has to alter or change in order to make it just drive it home a little bit more than his predecessors failed to do so. The reason I say that is because in the Gospel of John, you have the people friendly to Jesus that were there at the event, supposedly, at the foot of the cross. In fact, John is very, very clear to say that they were at the foot of the cross. The way, again, Gibson tries to, Gibson and others, Christians I've talked to, try and reconcile this, as they say that, well, maybe they were at a distance at first and then they moved forward. Of course, that's not what the Gospels say. Matthew, Mark, and Luke is very clear that they were at a distance. John, the last Gospel written, says, oh, no, just kidding, they were at the foot of the cross. Again, this is a blatant contradiction, and it's my opinion that John is playing cleanup. He has to make it clear that there were people who at least somewhat knew Jesus. They might not have been the 12 disciples or the authors of the Gospels, regardless, were not eyewitnesses as we know now, but nonetheless, they have to make it clear that someone must have been there. You also have another statement that there's a spear thrust to Jesus, thus the killing blow. Of course, most Christians and a lot of lay people don't realize this is only in the Gospel of John. Matthew, Mark, and Luke make no mention of essentially a spear thrust. So, in order to implicate the idea that yes, Jesus was certainly dead on the cross, you have the spear thrust. It's my assertion because really, the fact is, Jesus was only on the cross for a couple hours. He was not on there long enough for the average person, as we know from the history of crucifixion, that that the idea that that the crucifixion killed him, of course, is rather one could be skeptical about it considering the time frame. Being on there for a couple hours, and it took usually, as Josephus writes, the Roman Jewish historian who was a Roman citizen, that the crucifixion could take weeks, or excuse me, a week, up to a week, excuse me, several days, if you will, to be fair, and that 3 hours just seems to be rather ridiculous. Considering the fact that they didn't break Jesus' legs, because you don't die from being from the nails or from bleeding to death. You die because you suffocate on yourself. Your diaphragm crushes. You can no longer breathe. It's almost like the sensation of drowning. But they break your legs to quicken up this painful and slow and painful death. However, they didn't do this to Jesus. Of course, the New Testament passes this off as that it was some sort of prophecy. That, of course, can be debated. But they take him down, and because they thought that he was dead. Of course, they don't check his pulse or anything, but they assume that he's dead. They thought he was dead. I've heard some people argue that the Romans were expert killers, that they would have definitely known that he is dead. That, of course, is not correct. I will post a link in the description section to an article written by Shabir Ally and some of his afterthoughts with Dr. William Craig, where they debated this very subject. And in there, he mentions several books written by historians where the idea of knowing someone was dead, clinically dead, was not known for centuries. During this time, it was very odd to know. I mean, for example, you have, according to some early Christian sources, James, the brother of Jesus, was attacked, and people thought he was dead, and he just got right back up and kept walking. Same thing happens to Paul in the book of Acts. He's stoned, and they think he's dead. They foresee that he is dead, and then they walk away, and then he gets back up, and he keeps going. So this idea that, oh, well, they must have known he was dead. No, I'm sorry, that's not historically accurate. That's just an assumption. So anyway, they take him down, and then they proceed to give him the proper burial rites, and they put him into the sepulcher. When Pilate is told that Jesus was dead in the Gospel of Mark, he is amazed by this. He seems to be rather, confused that this could have happened, and he even has to ask, did this truly happen? This, of course, is the idea that Pilate being, historically being a very aggressive man, it makes you wonder, why would he pause? Why would he even beg to wonder why this would that Jesus would have actually been killed on the cross? Shouldn't this have been a quick and done deal? But anyway, so this is just this installment of just the crucifixion. We're going to move on to the resurrection, and we're going to proceed to see from Jewish culture how it's very unlikely that not only according to Jewish culture was Jesus clinically dead as a result of the cross, but also it is unlikely that his followers, the disciples, would have believed that he was dead based on Jewish culture. So thank you everyone for watching and sticking with me. Peace be with you all.